Creepy myths surround several classic horror films, and they can be just as scary as what you see on screen. There are movies that are supposedly cursed, and films that are apparently based on actual events. Here, we'll dispel some of the false facts to put your mind at ease. In the 2008 film The Strangers, a couple is tormented and tortured by a group of masked criminals in and around their vacation home. The Strangers made quite an impression upon its release, partly for the striking look of its masked intruders, but mostly for its central thesis that evil can be senseless and random. One aspect of the film significantly added to the horror. The Strangers was supposedly inspired by true events, a claim that was repeated in its more outlandish 2018 sequel, The Strangers Prey at Night. In both cases, this is a wildly misleading claim. Did someone wearing a spooky mask really terrorize a woman while a Joanna Newsom record skipped in the background? The long answer is no. Writer-director Brian Bertino says the story was inspired by something that happened to him as a child. One night, a stranger reportedly knocked on the door and asked for someone who didn't live there. It turns out that thieves were using this strategy to burglarize homes, as he explained to Collider in 2008.
And they were knocking on every door on the street with the idea that whoever didn't open the door, they would kick in the door and rob the place.
Bertino was also inspired by the Manson murders.
I was around, 11 or 12 years old. My dad gave me a book to read, and he gave me Helter Skelter, which was a very strange pick.
And those are the events that inspired The Strangers. True story. Ever since the original Poltergeist hit theaters in 1982, fans of the film have argued over who really directed the now classic supernatural thriller. Was it credited director Tobe Hooper or the film's co-writer and producer, Steven Spielberg? Some members of the cast and crew have said that Spielberg was so hands-on during filming that he ultimately deserves credit for directing the movie. But following Hooper's death in 2017, filmmaker Mick Garris set the record straight on his podcast Post Mortem. According to Garris, Spielberg was indeed a strong presence on the Poltergeist set, but that had more to do with the fact that this was Hooper's first big studio film. Plus, Spielberg is evidently just an enthusiastic guy when it comes to movies. Garris claims Spielberg may have occasionally jumped in when he wasn't needed, but he insists that at the end of the day, it's Hooper's vision you see on screen. As Garris said to producer and actress Caroline Williams,
Toby directed that movie. Steven Spielberg had a lot to do with directing that movie.
Thank you very much for stating that.
Garris claims Hooper did all the pre-production work and says he was always on set to yell action and cut. In fact, Spielberg himself reportedly acknowledged that Hooper ultimately directed the film.
Toby got credit because he deserved that credit, including Steven Spielberg said that.
Shouldn't that be enough to settle this once and for all? And since we're on the subject of Poltergeist, you've probably heard that the film is supposedly cursed. And this curse is apparently so powerful, it somehow extends to the film's increasingly terrible sequels. It's hard to say why evil forces would choose to lord over an entire trilogy of films, but the crew reportedly did use actual human skeletons in the first Poltergeist, so maybe that caused some sort of otherworldly ruckus? Frankly, we have our doubts, and so should you. As for what this supposed curse entails, there are various myths floating around. According to Snopes, an extreme version of the curse rumor asserts that everyone who appeared in these movies is now dead. Well, that is extreme, and also extremely untrue. We're sure Poltergeist stars Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams were startled to hear this news, seeing as they're both very much alive. But two major players in the Poltergeist franchise did suffer horrible fates in real life. Dominique Dunne, the actress who played the older sister in the first movie, was strangled to death by her boyfriend a few months after the film's release. Heather O'Rourke, the young actress who played Carol Ann in all three films, suddenly died from septic shock in 1988. These two tragic, unforeseen deaths are what really inspired the rumored curse, but the myth sometimes includes the death of actor Julian Beck, who played the fiendish Cain in Poltergeist 2: The Other Side, and who died from stomach cancer at the age of 60, 7 months before the film premiered. Sometimes the curse also involves the death of actress Zelda Rubinstein, who starred in all three Poltergeist films. But it's important to note that Rubinstein died of natural causes at the age of 76 and in the year 2010. That's a full 28 years after the original Poltergeist premiered. Not exactly the stuff terrifying curses are made of, is it? There are two surefire ways to entice moviegoers to see your horror film. You can claim your movie is based on actual events, or you can claim the production was cursed by dark, unseen forces. Or in the case of 1973's The Exorcist, you can do both.
Your mother's in here with this curse. Would you like to leave a message? I see that she gets it.
The 1971 novel by William Peter Blatty was inspired by a supposed real-life exorcism that took place in 1949. The Washington Post even covered the story at the time, publishing an article with the grabby headline, "Priest Frees Mount Rainier Boy Reported Held in Devil's Grip." According to St. Louis Magazine, all sorts of freakish antics surrounded this reported possession. Objects flew, his bed shook, a heavy chair tilted, a rug slid across the room. His body was raked with red scratches, which seemed to appear spontaneously and sometimes spell out words or draw a devil's face. Of course, it's worth looking at the incident with a healthy degree of skepticism. Author Thomas Allen, who wrote Possessed, The True Story of an Exorcism, told St. Louis in 2014, "I've always felt it was something we don't yet understand about the way the body handles problems that have invaded it. I felt there had to be a rational explanation for what was causing that kid to be suffering." Meanwhile, Michael Cuneo, author of American Exorcism, told the magazine, "If I had been there, my hunch is that I would not have seen the things they reported." Because the filmmakers decided to explore these occult themes, many believe The Exorcist is a cursed film. According to the 13th Floor, the curse supposedly caused numerous on-set accidents. For example, the set used for the McNeil's home caught on fire, and only Reagan's room was left unharmed. Oh, and actress Ellen Burstyn injured her spine after she was thrown to the ground in a scene, according to the Huffington Post. Also, Linda Blair reportedly hurt her back when a piece of rigging broke. During post-production, 2 actors who died in the film, Jack McGowran and Vasiliki Malarios, died in real life. Also, several relatives of people who starred in The Exorcist were reportedly hurt or killed while the film was being made. Meanwhile, some people believe the actual film stock was cursed, including the late evangelist Billy Graham, who always had the spooky stuff on his brain.
And I want to talk tonight about the devil and demons and witches and wizards.
Director William Friedkin told Entertainment Weekly that Billy Graham, who was not Catholic, denounced The Exorcist from the pulpit and said, "The devil is in every frame of this film." Now, how he examined every frame, I don't know. Of course, people get hurt all the time on and off movie sets. People pass away all the time too. That doesn't mean the film is cursed or haunted in any way. It's worth noting that Vasiliki Malarios was 89 years old at the time of her death. She died of natural causes, not supernatural causes. Marketing materials for 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre really wanted to convince viewers that the film was based on real-life events. One of the taglines even claimed, "What happened is true. Now the motion picture that's just as real." And the film opens with this grand announcement.
The events of that day were to lead to the discovery of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history.
The 2003 remake adopted the same strategy, with promotional posters proudly boasting that the film was inspired by a true story. So, is this tale actually based on terrible things that happened in real life? According to Snopes, that's a big ol' not really. The website points out that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is based on a true incident in 2 ways. For one thing, director Tobe Hooper knew a bit about Ed Gein, a real-life murderer and grave robber who made furniture out of skin and bone and who also inspired Psycho and Silence of the Lambs. Oh, and once Hooper imagined himself chainsawing his way out of a crowded department store, but haven't we all? That's it. That's the inspiration for the film and its remake. So don't let the grimy documentary feel of this 1974 classic convince you that you're watching a documentary. You aren't. The mysterious moose and its chalky undertaste. The ominous Tanis root pendant. The devil is truly in the details in 1968's Rosemary's Baby, a horror film about Satanism that's full of tantalizingly terrifying touches. Surely someone with a firm grasp on the black arts had to be on hand to advise the filmmakers, right?
That's not possible. That's a mistake.
Well, a popular myth about the film involves the late Anton LaVey, otherwise known as the founder of the Church of Satan. According to Vanity Fair, LaVey was falsely credited with working as a consultant on the film Rosemary's Baby. It's a myth that's endured for decades, and the story has grown over time. According to Criterion, one urban legend insists that Church of Satan bigwig Anton LaVey not only served as technical consultant on Rosemary's Baby, but also donned the hairy devil suit. the plot thickens. In fact, it's not at all unusual for publications to state this rumor as fact, such as when The Telegraph gleefully reported in 2018 that a breakthrough for LaVey seemed to come with Roman Polanski's film of Rosemary's Baby in 1968, where he played the devil himself. Some sources claim LaVey started the rumor himself, but is there any truth to the story? Sorry to say, the answer seems to be no. As the Washington Post reported in 1998, according to an interview with the original producer of the film Rosemary's Baby, LaVey was not technical advisor as he claimed, and not a single member of the cast or crew has ever mentioned LaVey's involvement. In fact, according to the Wall Street Journal, a little-known character actor named Clay Tanner actually played the role of the devil. So, that settles that. But even if LaVey did make up all these tall tales, his efforts might have been encouraged by Paramount Pictures. That is, if the Church of Satan can be believed, and that's a pretty big if. A post on the organization's official website claims that a lot of people like to attribute this legend to Anton LaVey. But in May of 1967, the publicist for Rosemary's Baby found Anton LaVey and his church and were very excited. They solicited his support for their efforts. So, if you're desperate to believe that LaVey was somehow involved with Rosemary's Baby, you can at least cling on to that little tidbit. If you close your eyes and think of Dracula, you probably see Bela Lugosi's slicked back hair and black cape and hear that hypnotic voice say,
"I never drink. Why?"
Such is the power of 1931's Dracula, one of the first talkie horror films. Dracula was a breakthrough role for Lugosi, and it turned him into a household name in America. To this day, many people believe the actor couldn't speak English during the making of the movie and therefore recited every line phonetically.
Van Helsing, a most distinguished scientist, whose name we know, even in the wild Transylvania.
But no, as Legend Revealed explains, that simply isn't true. By the time he starred in the film, Lugosi had already been playing Count Dracula on stage for several years, and he spoke English as well as he ever would. However, he did speak his lines phonetically in The Red Poppy, his 1922 Broadway debut. Perhaps that's where this rumor got started, even though the two projects were nearly a decade apart. Universal Studios' 1931 film Frankenstein is one of the all-time classics of the horror genre. You probably know the characters' names by heart. There's Dr. Frankenstein, and of course, his trusty hunchback assistant, Igor, right? The iconic Igor character was famously spoofed in 1974's Young Frankenstein with the character Igor, portrayed by Marty Feldman.
Dr. Frankenstein.
The character also inspired the 2008 animated feature, Igor. But here's the interesting thing. There is no Igor in the classic Universal Frankenstein film. Dr. Frankenstein did have a hunchback assistant played by Dwight Frye, but his name was Fritz. However, Dr. Frankenstein has an assistant named Igor in the sequel films Son of Frankenstein and Ghost of Frankenstein. But wait, as you can see, Igor wasn't hunchbacked, though he still had some pretty serious physical issues.
You see that? They hanged me once.
So how did the name Igor become forever associated with the image of a hunchbacked assistant? According to Dr. M's Frankenblog, mass misremembering may be the culprit for its popularity. If that's true, the idea of Igor the hunchbacked assistant is likely the result of filmgoers collectively confusing and recombining Fritz, Igor, and a number of other hunchback assistants from B-movies like 1944's The House of Frankenstein. Over time, this enduring archetype was born. That's our hunch, anyway.
Oh, it's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more grunge videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.